Did you ever have any involvement at any time in the Summit Accommodators exchange business?
No.
Did you ever personally have any, or strike that, did you ever personally do any 1031 exchanges?
No.
Did any of the entities that you were, well, strike that. Did you ever act as a manager or act as an employee for any of the entities that your father had any kind of ownership interest in?
No. Except for the ones that I'm involved in as a manager.
Oh, but let me clarify the question then.
Okay.
Including those entities that you may be involved in.
Okay.
So let me ask the question again. Did you ever have a role as either a manager or an employee in any companies or relating to any properties that your dad had a direct or indirect ownership interest in?
Yes. Klondike Point, LLC. Century Drive Mobile Home Park, LLC. SoCo Investments, LLC. And I was the manager of Kosovo Investments, but we were not managers of SDC. And he's not a member of Kosovo.
Is he a member of SDC?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So let's start with Klondike Point. What was your role as either manager or employee at any time at Klondike Point, or for Klondike Point?
I basically ran everything: property management, renovation, paying the bills, doing the tax returns, making most of the decisions besides big ones.
And so you've described what your responsibilities were. Did you have a defined position as a manager or employee at any time?
I've been a manager. Yes, manager the whole time.
And were you compensated for your work as a manager?
I got compensated via bookkeeping bills. Like, for the bookkeeping, I billed them for the bookkeeping. And I billed them for the construction management of the building, because we renovated it.
And what would you charge for those two services?
Bookkeeping is hourly rate, probably about $200 a month. And for the construction, because I managed the whole project, it was about $20,000.
And just so I'm clear about, you were in fact appointed as manager of Klondike Point.
Yes.
And when was that?
Since the inception, day one.
Was there a co-manager or co-managers?
Tim Larkin.
And as long as we're on Klondike Point, can you walk through the ownership interests in Klondike Point as you understood it from the inception, and then if it changed at any time, if you can describe that, just the best of your knowledge?
Okay. In the inception, it was, I had 16.667%, and so did Barb. And I believe Tim had 5%. And I think Stephen Ford had 10%.
And who was Stephen Ford?
A realtor in town.
And how did he get involved in this deal?
He was the one who I think brought it up to my dad.
Was he a client of Summit Accommodators as you understood it?
I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so anyone else that had an ownership interest at the inception?
Mark and
When you say
Brian.
Mark, you mean your dad?
Yeah. Mark and Brian had the rest.
apologize. What was Tim Larkin's ownership interest?
I think 5%.
Was Klondike the first investment that you were involved with your father?
Yes.
So how did that come about?
He thought I needed to start investing, and he thought it would be a good idea to do one for my practice, a place where I could put my practice.
And when approximately did you have that conversation with your dad? And I'm not asking for a precise date, just a time frame.
The fall of '04.
Were you working with him at the time?
No.
So it was just a conversation you had, personal conversation, and he said he thinks it's a good idea if you start investing.
Yes.
And who had the idea strike that. How did the idea for the specific investment for Klondike Point develop?
Stephen Ford.
So just describe from the beginning what happened.
I don't know exactly whatever conversation Stephen Ford had with my dad. All I know is I think they had a conversation, and then my dad told me, and I said, great, but I can only afford this much. And then that was it.
Yeah. And what was your role as things developed in terms of getting anyone else involved?
My original partner, Sandy, was going to invest, and she promised to invest, but she got nervous and backed out because she didn't really want to take on an investment. And Barb Tyler expressed an interest in both partnering with me and taking an investment.
Did you go to her and say, we've got this opportunity?
Yes.
And what had led you to believe that she might be interested?
My dad told me she would be a good partner, and then she also told me she was looking for an investment.
And so can you describe basically what the investment and the project was for Klondike Point as you understood it at the inception?
Just to have a commercial building that brings rent income in and to improve it with minimal cost.